So today's video is a really important one. We believe we've found what the next meta weapon is for Warzone Season 3. We believe it's the KRIG 6, and what we're going to do in this video is we're going to compare it to the GRAU and also some aspects to the Kilo to let you know which is the best long-range weapon inside Warzone at the moment. If you enjoy weapon comparisons, weapon stat breakdowns and overall tips and tricks for Warzone, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we're trying to reach our goal of 10,000 subscribers, and also click the link in the description down below and subscribe to our second channel. We've been posting a lot of content on there as well. So like I said, the main focus for this video is to break down the stats for the KRIG as well as the GRAU, because as we all know, within the Season 3 update, the KRIG did get a buff to its damage profile. And previously to that, everyone knows that the KRIG was a pretty easy gun to control when it comes to recoil. So is it actually better than the GRAU and the Kilo, and does it fit into that meta? Now before we do that, the first thing I want to do, of course, is to go over the class setups that we use to compare both of these guns. So what I'll show you just now is the class setup for the KRIG. The class for the KRIG, we should all probably know this by now, but if you don't, is the agency suppressor for the sound suppression, recoil control, bullet velocity and damage range. You need the Ranger barrel because this gives you the most bullet velocity out of all the other attachments. The other ones, like the takedown barrel, extends your damage range, but you don't really need this all that much. The bullet velocity is more important. Then for the under barrel, the field agent grip is the best. We did do some testing on the foregrip as well as this final grip as well in a private game, but the field agent works out overall the best for controlling recoil. The Stanag 60 round mags, just because it's the largest mags available. And then lastly, we use the axial arms 3x optic because I think this is going to be the most popular optic. Moving on into the GRAU next, we use the mono suppressor, the Archangel barrel, the commando foregrip, the 60 round mags, and the VLK optic. This was all done just to make sure we had a fair comparison with the longest barrels, the suppressors, the 60 round mag, and the 3x optics. Moving on into the overall handling stats now for both of the guns, we have the KRIG on the left, the GRAU on the right. You can see the rate of fire is slower on the KRIG at 652 rounds per minute. It's almost 100 rounds per minute slower than the GRAU, and as we all know, the meta weapons in Warzone usually have a 700 to 1000 rounds per minute fire rate, and that's what makes them meta. But we'll carry on with the rest of the stats as we'll go through everything. The ADS speed is slightly slower on the KRIG, it's 400 milliseconds. The GRAU has a 367 millisecond ADS speed. This is about a frame or a couple of frames difference. It's not a huge difference, so this should not be deciding on which gun to choose. Then the mag size is exactly the same for both of these guns. The reload time is slightly quicker on the KRIG, but again, not a huge difference. Bullet velocity is slightly better on the GRAU. Once you start getting over the 1000 meters per second on assault rifles, you don't really need to matter too much about how much better one weapon is over the other. It's only if one is significantly slower below that 1000 meters per second mark. But both of these are in an extremely good range when it comes to bullet velocity. When it comes to movement speeds, the KRIG is a little bit quicker, but not by much. As you can see, when it comes to overall handling stats, both of these guns are pretty much neck and neck at this point. I mean, there's slight differences when it comes to the stats, but overall, they're pretty much the same for the most part, which is what makes the KRIG quite good, because if you think about it, the GRAU was meta for a reason, and that is why the KRIG, if it matches up, is going to be a meta weapon. Moving on now, the next thing I want to show you is actually the time to kill values for the KRIG as well, comparing it with the GRAU. The next section of this video is taken from truegamedata.com, and a link to all of their stuff will be linked in the description down below. But as you can see on screen just now, we have the time to kill chart for the KRIG as well as the GRAU. The GRAU is with all the attachments stacked on, and the KRIG doesn't have any attachments tested on this website just yet. But if you remember, the only attachment that's increasing the damage range on the KRIG is actually the agency suppressor. The barrel is only improving bullet velocity. So this damage range might get boosted out by about 10% or so with the agency suppressor. That will boost it to about, let's say, 45 meters instead of about 38 meters, and that's kind of pushing it. But the GRAU does kill a little bit quicker in this range right here. But let's just quickly go over the time to kill chart. So at close range, the KRIG kills at 644 milliseconds. The GRAU kills in 658 milliseconds. Not a huge difference there. Then when the damage drops off is where you see the huge time to kill difference here. So the KRIG kills in 736 milliseconds and the GRAU kills in 904 milliseconds. So as you can see, at those longer distances, the KRIG's performing amazingly well compared to the GRAU. Now, even if we add in the kilo here, you can see that the kilo has even further damage drop-offs, which doesn't really help this gun whatsoever. So it does kill a little bit quicker at close range, but again, the KRIG's still doing an amazing job. Then once it drops off, it does kill a little bit quicker than the GRAU. So within this range where it's below 90 meters, the kilo is slightly better than the GRAU, but then the KRIG is even better than both of these guns, so it's kind of pointless using either one of these two because they kill way too slow at those longer ranges compared to the KRIG. When it comes to the low recoil, long range, full auto weapons inside Warzone, the KRIG has the best time to kill, and that time to kill is only good if you can land all of your shots, because that is what the most deciding or most important factor is about these weapons. So on screen just now, you will see the recoil chart comparing the GRAU as well as the KRIG, and you can see the KRIG on the left as well as the GRAU on the right, and this is with all of the attachments stacked on both of these weapons, so trying to control the recoil as much as possible. And the one thing I did want to do here is do this recoil chart at a 40-meter distance. Now this is about the range you're going to be finding yourself having a lot of gunfights with either one of these weapons. And what you can see here is the GRAU pretty much goes upwards, and it's pretty much a straight line more or less, and that's why it's so easy to manage when it comes to recoil with the GRAU. But the KRIG does go upwards to the right and then goes back to the left again, which is a bit weird, but it's not a harsh recoil pattern by any means. But my main issue with the KRIG, and as you can see on screen just now, is the side-to-side recoil. It has so much more side-to-side recoil than the GRAU does. But then again, this is the trade-off you make to have the faster TTK at the longer ranges. But either way, both of these guns are so easy to control at range, it's ridiculous. And that is why I do believe the KRIG will be the main meta weapon inside Warzone. So if you can manage this recoil, then the KRIG fries at those longer distances. Now, of course, it doesn't kill as quick as the AMAX, which is a different topic altogether, but if you're talking about the low recoil weapons inside Warzone, the KRIG is by far and away the best at the moment. Now, if we were talking last season, I would never recommend this gun to you, but considering how good this gun is right now in terms of low recoil, low time to kill, if you're using the GRAU or the Kilo, I would highly recommend making the switch over to the KRIG. It's a much better gun overall. If you enjoyed this video and you learned something new, don't forget to subscribe as we're trying to reach our goal of 10,000 subscribers. And also click that link in the description and subscribe to our second channel. We've made extra content on there as well for you. And thank you very much for watching.